welcome to the Cultivating Calmness Podcast. My name is Kaela Vance, and today I just want to talk a little bit about herbal remedies and tinctures. I know in the past we have talked about some of the different ways you can use herbal remedies and different like herbs or flowers or plants you can grow in your backyard that you can use for medicine. So I know I did that several weeks ago, actually probably a couple months ago now, at the start of spring when everything was starting to come up. I know I talked a little bit about many different herbs and what they can do for you and how you could potentially use them. So today I wanted to give a little update and some of the things that I have made, how I have made them, learned from them, and use them in my home and in my life, and how you can do some of the same things too. So if you are watching, I have several of my products and several things here with me, and I will kind of show you what those things look like. If you are listening, well, I will try to describe it as best as I can, and maybe you can try some of these things on your own and you can do some of your own research. I always encourage everybody to do your research because in doing research of my own for myself and making these products, and to do a little bit more before I talked today, you find all kinds of information, some that agrees and aligns and some that is different. And so, as you know, from looking on the internet, you can find a lot of different answers for the same thing oftentimes, and they all claim to be correct or the correct way to do things. When they are generally the same, that's when I tend to, follow that path and that recommendation, and based on other people's experiences that I trust and learn from, that's kind of where I go. So I encourage you to do the same thing. Find some sources that appear appropriate to you, and just keep in mind certain types of searches will provide you with accurate information. Some that are more on the medical side or allopathic medicine side may make claims that herbal remedies and things are unsafe. Well, just as medications have pros and cons, herbal remedies can also have pros and cons. And so you need to kind of know what you're putting into your body and what it can or cannot do for you. There are certain ways that herbs can interfere with, medicines that you may be taking, or, if you're taking the wrong type of herb, it could promote the wrong type of thing to happen in your system, which could have like the opposite effect of what you want, even though it's supposed to be good for you. It's kind of like if bananas are supposed to be good for you, but you're allergic to bananas and you're eating bananas all the time. Well, if those aren't actually going to be good for you, they're going to be hurting you. So for you individually, it may take some trial and error. You may need to learn how these herbs may affect your system and your body, but I'm not going to talk a lot about that today. I want to get into how and why and what is a tincture. So to start with, I have a few examples here. Some are here on my table with me, and some I have down here on the floor, which I will bring up and show you when we get to it. So I grow chamomile. So I have a very large, I think this is a quart, maybe larger, a half-gallon container here. And it's almost full of chamomile flowers. So it's almost up to the tippy top, and I have 2 layers of my drying rack full of flowers drying right now, and I could go out to my garden and pick another half of a layer of flowers to dry. And the idea being, like, if you continue to pick and water and take care of your flowers, they will continue to grow. But this is only my second year growing chamomile, and last year I think I had 6 plants. This year I didn't count the number of plants. They self-seeded, and so I had, I don't know, a couple, maybe at least 100, if not more, plants, and I tried to pick them out. Some were in groups, some were singular plants, and I planted them in, I don't know, I think 6 rows, maybe 10, 15 long. So what is that, like 90? Maybe I planted 100 plants. I didn't count. So I have lots and lots and lots of flowers. Last year I filled, I think, 2 pint-sized jars of flowers, or maybe 1.5. This year, I'm going to fill this, if not maybe more of these. It can be tedious. I don't have a special little tool to pick my flowers, and I probably could. So I'm picking them out like one by one or a few at a time, and it can take me a half hour or more to pick my little garden space. So keep that in mind when you are planting things, that then you have to take care of them and have to do them. So that sometimes is the hardest part. So anyway, I have this jar here almost full. And if you're watching, I'm showing what that looks like dried. So these are dried in here. And so I'm just gonna collect them. You can use these in teas. You could probably put them in a bath, but you're gonna get the most effectiveness out of them in a tea or a tincture. So the benefit of a tincture, which I have here, this one I started May 11th. So we're about a month in, a little over a month in. So I could probably siphon this and filter this in, at the end of June. So you're looking at that. That is soaked in alcohol, 80 proof vodka. Actually, this is what I used here. I used Western Reserve Distillers vodka. It's organic. So when I'm making things for my family or myself, I try to buy something organic just because we know that they're not supposed to have any of the chemicals or fertilizers or things inside them like maybe potentially traditional vodka might, because they use different things to make the vodka, like potatoes or rye or sugar or any other number of things that they use to make vodka. I don't know what this one is made from, but that's why I buy organic. You can buy whatever you want, whatever suits you and your family. So you let this soak, you give it a shake, maybe once a week. And this was pretty full. This jar here, I think this is a quart. All of this vodka fit in here. So it doesn't seem like real, but that's what happens. You can pour all of this into here and there's still room left at the top, including all the flowers that are in here. So keep that in mind when you're making yours, and you let that sit. Then you will siphon it out with like a cheesecloth or a fabric bag. So I have one of those here. I've used this numerous times. Sometimes it may take a little, 2 hands or 4 hands, maybe a couple people to help. Or I pour this, I fold the bag over a jar or a bowl. I pour it in, pull it up. You can tighten the top of this bag here, cinch it in, or you can just, twist the top of the bag and then you start to squeeze out as much as you can. So when you're doing it by hand, you're only going to get so much out. You're going to squeeze it and you're going to try to get everything out that you can. And then what you have left are the spent herbs that you used in your infusion, your tincture. I also have an oil infusion that I will show you. So you can do that, and then you can compost what's left in here. I haven't tried using the herbs for anything else because they're soaked in alcohol, or if you make an oil infusion, they're soaked in oil. You may be able to use the herbs for something else, and you may get something out of them. You just may get less. The idea behind using a tincture is that the alcohol pulls out all the constituents, all the important nutrients and vitamins and whatever else you want to call them, constituents inside the herbs to come out into the vodka here. So this started out clear, and I'm holding up the chamomile now. And if you can see it, it is like a yellow, dark yellow, brownish color. And so that's what it's going to look like when I take all of the herbs out. And it's just sitting here pulling out all of the things that are necessary for you and me. And then you don't need as much of a tincture as you would, say, a tea. So I just went outside because I wanted to show you, and I picked freshly picked chamomile flowers. So that's what they look like. And sometimes I will rinse them, and see, I should rinse them because I just set these on my table and there's little tiny bugs on them. I didn't used to do that, but now that I realize that there are little tiny itty bitty bugs in here, you can't really see them until you lay them down and then they start to come out. You want to rinse them. You want to try to get those bugs out if you can. So I will rinse these, put them on a drying rack, and then they end up like this. Still pretty true to what they look like. They're just they're a little smaller, not as plump as they are fresh from the garden. So after, I get done today, I'm going to go pick the rest of these and get them dried, and water the garden because it's, almost 100. It's in the mid 90s all week this week here in Ohio. So these could die if I don't water them and take care of them. So that's kind of how you make a tincture. You pour, so let me back up. You get these fresh herbs. Now you can make a tincture with fresh herbs or dried herbs. I tend to use dried herbs. I don't think I've made any with fresh herbs. It's been a while since I've made one, but you can. Again, you want to clean them and then dry them and try to get as much water off of them as possible. Then you put them in a jar. You cover the jar with alcohol. And what you want to do is you want to try to have a 2-inch gap between the herb and the vodka. Now, what I've experienced though is that the gap ends up being at the bottom because the herbs end up being really light, and you want to crush up or grind up your herbs because there's more surface coverage with the alcohol and the herbs, and it helps to get more of those constituents out. I didn't really crush these, but I have crushed or made smaller other ones, and I can show you some examples of that. And you let this sit. Put it in a cool, dark place. So I put it in like a closet or what do you call it? A cabinet where you keep all your foods. And I go in there like once a week, give it a good shake, and let it sit some more. So about 6 weeks, you want this to sit, then you can take it out and you can put it into dark bottles. So right now this is in obviously a clear glass bottle. When you get done with it, you want to take it out and you want to put it in like a dark brown bottle to prevent light and pollution, like light pollution from getting in and kind of depleting the constituents in those herbs. So what else I have here is I just want to show you kind of what I make my own vanilla extract. So if you go to the store, the good ones are simply vodka and vanilla beans. But a lot of other ones will have artificial color in them, potentially even artificial flavor in them. I wasn't happy with that, so I started to make my own. I think this one I've had for probably about 2 years. Now, I'm not like a huge baker, but I do like baking and I do like using my vanilla extract. I think I have 15 maybe vanilla beans in here. I don't remember. But what I did is I took the vodka bottle and I put the vanilla beans inside. So I had to pour off, a shot or two to make room for the vanilla beans. You slice open the vanilla beans, you scrape out all of that pulp, which is all those little teeny itty bitty tiny vanilla bean seeds. So when you have vanilla bean ice cream, you see all the little black specks. That's what it is, the pulp and seeds from inside the vanilla bean. I put that in here and then I drop the seeds in and then you let it sit. Now, this is where there's some discrepancy. I read a lot of or follow Earthly Wellness or the Modern Alternative Mama, and hers recommended letting it sit for a month, 4 to 6 weeks. Other people have recommended at least a year to help pull out and make it a sweeter flavor. I obviously left mine in, so I just let it sit in there and I continued to use it. You could do that if you wanted to. That's probably what I will continue to do because it worked for me. So this is one I started a few days ago because as you can see, I was almost out. So I just used this and I probably need to add more vanilla beans because from some additional research that I did, I guess I didn't realize, how many you actually needed. It was recommending 1 vanilla bean per ounce of vodka or liquid that you use. So oftentimes people will use a vodka for an extract for vanilla beans, but sometimes people will use bourbon. So actually I was going to try both, but I may not have enough vanilla beans now that I know I probably need to put more in here. So it's only been a few days and this is already a light brown color, but I put 8 vanilla beans in here. According to that, 1 bean per ounce, I need to put like 13 more in here, which is all the vanilla beans that I have. I may or may not do that. I don't know yet because it worked out for me. It smells delicious and it's healthy. It's good for you. It's not hurting you with additional colors and additives that are really unnecessary. So if I hold these two up together, this is what one looks like with the vanilla beans in it, a light brown, and the other one is very clear. And that's just after a few days. And so that's what's going to happen with your tinctures. It's pulling out all of the constituents, all the things that it needs to from those vanilla beans, from those flowers, from those herbs that you put in there. And those things are going to go into your body when you use them. So I started to mention that you don't need as much. So if I were to make a tea with these flowers, which I could do fresh or dried, you know, I would need a lot more flowers to get the same amount of, same benefit that I would from a few drops of the tincture. Okay. So it's not that your chamomile tea isn't benefiting you and isn't healthy and isn't good for you. It is. You just may get more benefit from the tincture form than you will a dried herbal tea form, which is okay. There are many, different ways of using herbs, and not everybody uses a tincture. But that is why tinctures have become really popular. They're very highly concentrated. You don't need as much. It can last you a long time. So I am preparing to do this chamomile. I'm going to probably do some more because my family uses a lot. It's good for gut healing, good for relaxation. It's an anti-inflammatory, good for digestion. It helps control blood sugar. There's lots of benefits from it. So I want a lot of that for my family and for my friends who may want some. So I just use these for personal use, and a lot of people sell what they make. I'm not there yet. Maybe one day I will. So some other ones that I have going right now, I have Echinacea. So this one is pretty thick in here. It probably could have used some more vodka in here, and actually some of when it sits, it gets fully covered, but when I shake it up, it takes a minute for everything to settle down. So it probably needed less of the Echinacea in here and more of the vodka because it is a little full. You can kind of see that in the video. But it is a very dark brown color, and this is good. A lot of immune help. It can help with mood. And let's see, I started this at the beginning of April, so I could probably take care of this one here now. I started this dandelion one at the beginning of May, so yeah, we're getting right about the time where I could take this out. So this is a dandelion tincture. This is all parts of the dandelion. This is roots, leaves. There should be flowers in here, but I am not. Oh, yes, there are flowers. You just can't see them because they're covered in dark colored vodka. So I did not crush up the roots. So I broke them up into chunks. So if I had broken them up into smaller pieces, I would have had more effectiveness from those roots, probably pulled out more from those roots, but I didn't do that. So just for future, you could do that if you wanted to. And when you pick herbs, you want to try to get them from places that aren't sprayed, that don't have chemicals. So I don't use chemicals in my yard. I think my neighbors might use chemicals. So I try not to pick things close to the border of my yard or the road because, there's lots of just stuff that comes up from the road, especially in the winter. And, I don't really want that in herbs that I'm going to put in my body. So I pick a lot of these from my backyard. We get tons and tons and tons of dandelions in our backyard. I'm sure my neighbors are thrilled about that. So lastly, I'm going to tell you about oil infusions. So this one here that I'm holding up is an olive oil infusion. It is like a yellowish. Now it's not too much different, I think, than what olive oil looks like. I did not grab a sample of olive oil that I used. And these are calendula flowers. So they're like an orangish yellow. There can be other colors for calendula flowers. I planted them for medicine. Actually, and I separated this probably a few weeks ago. So I need to get this into a dark container. For that reason I already explained. Same thing can happen with oil infusions. And then keeping it in a cool, dark place. So there are a couple of ways of doing oil infusions, hot and cold. I chose to do hot because I wanted it to happen faster. I guess I could have done it cold because I haven't done anything with it yet. My bad. But such is life. So I took about this many flowers, maybe a little less, and then I covered the jar of flowers with the oil. And then what I did is I took the jar and I put it in my crock pot with hot water. Now I set a silicone pad underneath it so that the glass wasn't on glass and getting hot. And I let it sit for a couple days. Some say you only need like a couple hours. The crock pot, doesn't boil. It's just a steady hot temperature. Now, if I had put it on the stove, I could have only done it maybe for a few hours and let it boil and kept an eye on the water level. But I did I think I did like 2 solid days of it on medium to medium heat, low to medium heat, I think, and let this heat up. And it pulled out the constituents from the flowers, put it into the oil, and you can use the oil on your skin, in a lot of herbs and balms and salves and like all those kinds of things. You could do a tincture with calendula. You could put them in detox baths because they're a good way to detox. And you can get, like, to make a salve, you would need some other ingredients with this oil, like beeswax and maybe some like shea butter. It depends on what you like to use to make your lotions and rubs. And then when you have scratches and itches and boo-boos and things like that, you can put this on, and it will really help your skin. Internally, it can help with being anti-inflammatory and with vitamins and a whole bunch of other things. The Modern Alternative Mama has a lot on her website about the benefits of calendula, and she has a lot of calendula in many of her products from Earthly Wellness. I do have a lot of those, so you can check out my website or my affiliate link if you'd like to explore more of her products. But I learned a lot from her and how she's made things over the years. And, I trust her recommendations and the things that she does, but along with many other organizations that make products as well. So this is an oil infusion. You can do it hot like I did. Cold would be cover the herbs with the oil and then stick it in the closet, just like the tinctures. Shake it once a week or so, and in 4 to 6 weeks or so, take it out. So you can do it either way. From what I've read, these oils can last about a year if preserved in the right way. So I need to get this into a dark jar to help preserve this better and or start to use it. And then it should last you a while. So I hope you learned something from today. I wanted to share some of that with you and let you know some of the progress that I've made. These were started, weeks or months ago, and I am now getting to the point where I can use them. If you want to use things for gifts, or if you're thinking ahead for winter, elderberries and echinacea and vanilla, that's a good one that people will use as gifts for people. If you want to do that, get started now, so that you have the time to let those herbs sit, to pull out those constituents so they are very healthy and full of all of the things that it needs to then use in the times that you need them. So I have an elderberry brewing upstairs. I'll probably start another one because the elderberry's been soaking for a while, way over the 6 weeks that it needs to. And they can benefit you. So I hope you learned something. Check out, your own research. There are many sites out there. Many people do this. So if you are having trouble, you don't remember, you don't know what to do, there are many sources out there. Check a few. If they're about the same, go for it. Give it a try and see what you think, and let me know. Thank you for joining me today for the Cultivating Calmness podcast. I look forward to talking with you next week.